Good evening. This is Sky News at 10, live from Rome, a city where they're praying for the Pope tonight on a day when it appears that his long period of suffering may be finally drawing to a close.
They're praying too in his native Poland for the local priest who rose to be Pope.
All eyes are on the Pope's Vatican apartment tonight as the crowds grow in the square below.
His breathing has become shallow and his heart and kidneys are failing.
Prayers across the world, the faithful paid their respects during his final hours.
Here in his Polish homeland, a national outpouring of emotion.
Sky News with Jeremy Thompson and Anna Botti.
Good evening from Rome. This is Sky News at 10. It is a day when the longest serving Pope in modern times appears to be close to death tonight. The latest the Vatican are saying from John Paul II is that he has lost consciousness, his breathing has become shallow, his heart and his kidneys are beginning to fail him. The Vatican has denied reports coming out of some areas of the Italian media tonight that he was already dead. They said that the equipment, the cardiogram that was supposed to be, the media claimed had gone onto a flat line. That was not true at all. They had no such machine in the Vatican. So, a night of rumours and bulletins and counter-rumours. Our correspondent Colin Braziers joins me now. Colin's been monitoring events here and you've just been up to St. Peter's Square. A huge crowd there waiting for the real news, and the Vatican the only one that can give us that real news.
Well, you wonder, looking at those crowds, Jeremy, what exactly the curial officials, the Vatican officials, are going to do tonight. I mean, they've got tens of thousands of people, many of them Romans, many of them pilgrims from across the world who've come here to get a medical bulletin, to get a sense of how their Pope is this evening. It's getting colder, starting to rain, there are old people there are people with families, children. You would wonder, you would expect there to be some kind of medical bulletin, some kind of update, just so these people know what to do, what's happening next. They're keeping vigil at the moment, but surely they can't do indefinitely. People are expecting some kind of update one way or the other.
A strange evening, hasn't it been, of ups and downs where people's emotions have been dragged from one extreme to the other.
3 or 4 hours ago, flurry of activity, flurry of bulletins. All the indications then, certainly from the Italian media, was that his demise was imminent, if not indeed already had taken place. Reports that the Pope had died, then immediately contradicted by the Vatican, as you explained, and really we're in something of a strange limbo now, to borrow a religious word. It does feel peculiar. People are still waiting, having come here, so in some instances doubtless having heard Italian media reports that he was dead, to pay their respects, only to come here and find in fact the Vatican are saying he's still with us.
And all eyes on those windows there. Those are the Pope's windows in his apartment high up in the Vatican City, where he's now surrounded by his personal staff, the prelates and nuns who cared for him, and of course amongst them the doctors who will now be monitoring his every move, with his condition deteriorating throughout the day. He's now said to be gravely ill. My colleague Barbara Serra has been keeping an eye on the developments throughout the day here in Rome.
Some have been here all day, but it's as night fell that the hundreds of pilgrims became tens of thousands, all gathered in St. Peter's Square, all gazing up at the Pope's lighted apartment windows, praying for him. But the evening has brought only bad news about the Pope's condition. The Vatican has confirmed that his health is deteriorating further, his breath shallow, his heart and kidneys now failing. After weeks of downplaying the seriousness of the Pope's condition, senior Vatican officials have warned death is imminent. The prayers in St. Peter's Square are a way for the pilgrims to say goodbye. The sermon which frames those prayers speaks of Christ opening a new door for the Pope. Earlier, a special mass was held in Rome's San Giovanni Cathedral, concelebrated by 100 priests and led by Cardinal Ruini. As Bishop of Rome, it would fall to him to break the news of a papal death. Instead, he praised the strength of the Pope's faith and called on Romans to intensify their prayers. Thousands of people gathered in this cathedral from across Rome to pray for the Pope. But whereas just a few days ago they would have prayed for his recovery, now most of them prayed for a quick and dignified end to his suffering. As the night grew colder, the crowds showed no signs of diminishing. They remember a vibrant Pope who would always reach out to them, even as his health deteriorated. During what could be the last hours of his pontificate, his followers want to show Pope John Paul II the same kind of determination. Barbara Serra, Sky News, Rome.
The prayers of Britain's Catholics were led tonight by Cardinal Cormac Murphy O'Connor in a special service at Westminster Cathedral. Among the many who gathered in the cathedral in the congregation tonight, the Prime Minister's wife, Cherie Blair. Sky's Joel Hills has this report.
In London, the faithful are saying goodbye. A scene played out in churches around the world. Westminster Cathedral saw a steady flow of visitors praying for John Paul and a steady flow of tears.
We do not know how long Pope John Paul still has to live. Hours, days, it is in the Lord's hands.
A sense of resignation echoed at a special mass in Armagh.
We have been united with the Holy Father in these moments, these hours of his sufferings. We are urging people to come out, and they have been responding to the masses here today and still entering the cathedral here behind me to offer their prayers, to sign the book and to remember him.
The Pope's fragile hold on life was symbolised everywhere, here in Portugal and in Croatia. Everywhere they spoke in different tongues, but with the same meaning. At the birthplace of the church, an international delegation of bishops joined the public in prayer, its makeup reflecting the growth of Catholicism in the developing world.
For us, in Africa, who have been so much dear to him, he has come to visit us several times, and all our communities in Africa are praying for him.
Latin America is the other growth area. The bishops there and in Africa believe the next pope should come from their region. Each candle is lit in hope, but the adults know better than to have much expectation of good news. The Vatican's medical bulletins tell them as much. From London to Manila, all eyes turn to Rome. Joel Hills, Sky News.
Well, the Pope's long and eventful journey through life began 84 years ago in a little village called Katowice in Poland. He went on to become the Archbishop of the nearby city of Katowice, and it's from there that we're joined now by Anna Botting. Evening, Anna.
Hello to you, Jeremy. Yes, it's been a pensive day of prayer and waiting here. Very difficult to overestimate just how important Pope John Paul II is to the Polish people. He is their beloved countryman. He is their spiritual leader. He is their moral leader. And he is the person who gave them back their independence after years of outspoken battle against the communist regime here in the late 1970s and the 80s. A few hours ago, behind me in the Church of St. Mary, there was a mass, and it was standing room only. And a short time ago we heard of a small vigil taking place across the main square here in Krakow. It wasn't a small vigil though. There were hundreds of people silently weeping and singing a prayer to their beloved Pope John Paul II. With the day's events here in Poland, here's Sky's Rachel Ammett.
A special mass in Krakow to remember a pope who was once their local priest. These are the churches Karol Wojtyła first preached in, the beginning of a remarkable journey which is now drawing to an end. It seemed like all of Krakow was here, the old and the young, to pray for the father of a nation. John Paul II never forgot the people of his homeland, and there's no way they'll forget him.
He's the most important person for our lives, for history, for everything. So we have to be with him. We want to be with him.
Said that we should be together. So for every people, he is very important, and we want to show him how much we love him.
It's more than 4 decades since Karol Wojtyła left for Rome, but his election to the papacy rekindled Poland's sense of destiny after decades of communist rule. The Polish often describe the Pope as someone who offered a beacon of light during one of their darkest times. And that's why so many have come to pray for him this evening, aware that light is finally fading. Rachel Ammett, Sky News, Krakow.
Anna, I imagine being there in Krakow, where the Pope spent so many of his early years, you get a real sense of this extraordinary journey he's made from a little village in Poland in the old Eastern Bloc right the way through to the Vatican.
Absolutely. He was born on the 18th of May 1920 in a small village, as you say, some 35 miles from here, called Wadowice. In just a 2-room apartment he lived with his parents and his brother, though his mother died in childbirth when he was just 9 years old. When he was 18 he moved here to Krakow to come to the university, but it was 1938. A year later the Nazis invaded, the university was closed, and the students, who were worried about deportation and death because some 20% of the Polish population lost their lives during the Nazi Holocaust, they closed the university and the students had to merge into the background. So he went to work in a quarry as a stonemason and then a chemical factory up until 1944. But all the while he was secretly going to the cellars at Wawel Cathedral, some 10 minutes away from here, and learning to become a priest, finally ordained in 1946. And from there, as you say, he became bishop, he became archbishop, cardinal, and then of course Pope in 1978. So deeply humble roots to the top job in the Catholic Church.
Anna, I imagine as you've been out in the streets tonight and you've been at some of the vigils in the city of Krakow, you've been able to get a feeling of just how much this man means to his native Poland.
Yeah, it's been deeply moving. I mentioned earlier the vigil, the pictures of which you saw in Rachel's report there. But as we turned up, we thought it was just a small vigil, and we started moving towards the front. We thought perhaps there was a choir, that there were nuns singing at it, and we walked forward and we walked forward, and we couldn't get to the front to see who was singing until we looked around and realized that everybody was singing, their heads bowed, some of them covering their eyes. The pain of this is so deep to them. As I said, 90% of Poles are Catholic. This is a man who has taken them through a very difficult heritage. The Nazi Holocaust was deeply troubled for this country. And then, of course, the decades afterwards of communism, for which Pope John Paul II is praised for having brought that regime down. Brought the regime down not only here in Poland, but also across the Eastern Bloc. The Soviet Union disintegrated, and so too the Cold War. And the Poles lay that all at the feet of Pope John Paul II.
Anna, thanks very much. Anna Botting in Krakow, the city where the Pope began his journey through the priesthood that led him to the Vatican City here, and eventually to that apartment where he lies now gravely ill tonight, with the eyes of those in St. Peter's Square, tens of thousands of people below, focusing on the lit windows of the Vatican City, and 1 billion more Catholics around the world praying for him tonight. Well, prayers were said in London at Westminster Cathedral, led by Cardinal Cormac Murphy O'Connor, and our reporter Emma Birchley has been following that service. Give us a little bit of the flavour and the atmosphere of that Mass tonight and those prayers, Emma.
Well, Jeremy, a very moving ceremony here. People had filled the cathedral, so much so that at the back people knelt on the cold concrete floor because there was no room in the seating. They've come here in a steady stream throughout the day, not only to say their silent prayers, but also to light candles before a picture of the Pope placed at the altar. People have come here, and Cardinal Cormac Murphy O'Connor urged them to pray for the Pope, to pray that he can face his final hours with the sort of courage that he has faced the recent months and years as his health has begun to deteriorate. And it was as the service came to an end at around 6 o'clock this evening that news came from the Vatican that his health was deteriorating even further, that his breathing had become shallow and his blood pressure was significantly lower than it had been.
Emma, I got the feeling that Cardinal Cormac Murphy O'Connor was stressing two things: the sadness of the occasion, but also the inspiration that this man has given to his Catholic congregation around the world.
Yes, he described the Pope as a man who's had an extraordinary and wonderful life, a man who's provided a moral voice for the world, who's had an influence on people throughout the world. This is a man who, in his 26 years as Pope, has led 1 billion Catholics worldwide, and he's not only had an influence on the Catholics in the world, but also people of all religions and other Christians.
Emma, many thanks. You're watching Sky News at 10, live from Rome tonight. And as you see these live pictures of the Vatican City tonight, the lights of the Pope's apartment high up there on the far side of St. Peter's Square shine out as the eyes of many pilgrims, many worshippers, many followers in the square below look up, and their eyes focused on that building as they wait for further news. The latest we have is that the Pope is close to death tonight. He has lost consciousness, his breathing has become shallow, his heart and kidneys are said to be failing. And those thousands of pilgrims gathering, hoping that this is not the last, but I think most now accepting, most that we've spoken to accepting that inevitably these are entering the final hours. As one cardinal here said tonight, that Christ has reached out and touched the Pope, that he is in touch and he is seeing the Lord tonight. Well, we will bring you more as we have it. We're waiting for any news bulletins that may be coming out of the Vatican. Nothing been heard for about 3 hours now since the last medical bulletin from there, which gave us the news that his condition was deteriorating. We'll bring you the very latest shortly. In the meantime, to take you back for the rest of the day's news to the Sky News Centre in London.
Jeremy, thank you. In other news this evening, children conceived using sperm and egg donations will have the right to identify their genetic parents once they turn 18.
But with 1 in 7 couples facing fertility problems, experts worry that the loss of anonymity will result in a long-term shortage of contributors.
The number of sperm donors has already slumped from 554 in 1992 to just 222 in 2003.
Well, in the same time, egg donations rose from 247 in 1992 to 1,178 in 2003. That's because women are increasingly sharing eggs to cut the cost of their own fertility treatment. Sky's Nicola Hill reports.
Any one of these men could have donated their sperm to help someone else have a family. Until today, their anonymity was assured. But the laws changed. Children conceived this way now have the right to trace their parents. Fertility specialists say there's already a shortage of donors, and this will make it worse.
They've withdrawn the loss of anonymity and got to worry about its effect on the provision of services afterwards. And that's very sad, particularly if you're poor and you haven't got the money to afford private fertility treatment.
A similar threat hangs over egg donors. Angela Crowhurst has given up 18 eggs since having a family of her own. However, she says donors have nothing to fear in being traced. They won't have legal or financial responsibilities for the child.
I don't think anyone that donated their eggs would really worry about it either. You've done it to help bring life to that person, and I think any donor would love to, meet the child.
2 5s. I knew there was a...
Patrick Turner was told at a young age that he was conceived using donor sperm. His mother backs the change to the law.
I feel very strongly that children have a right to know who they are, where they came from, and meeting a donor would give any child a better sense of their own identity, and they really have the right to know where they came from.
Fertility charities fear there'll be a growth of unlicensed services, or that couples will go abroad for treatment. The internet already offers an alternative supply of sperm, and companies are able to get around the anonymity law. The Department of Health says the interests of the child are paramount. Similar schemes are successful in other countries, and it adds it's launched a campaign to attract more donors. Nicola Hill, Sky News.
Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe is said to have won the country's election. The main opposition leader, Morgan Tsvangirai, accused the ruling party of trying to steal the vote. Mr. Tsvangirai said massive fraud had been committed.
Cheryl Barrymore, the former wife of entertainer Michael Barrymore, has died. She was 56. Her friend and publicist Max Clifford said she died from lung cancer after being diagnosed only 6 weeks ago.
Car drivers in London will be hit by higher congestion zone charges. London's Mayor, Ken Livingstone, confirmed today it will go up from £5 to £8 on July the 4th. That's a rise of 60%. Motoring and business groups have criticised the new charges, which will raise an extra £45 million a year.
Now, if yesterday's royal photo op was an audition for the throne, Prince William would have easily won the part.
Compared to the edgy and resentful performance from his father, the 22-year-old prince looked like a king in waiting. This report contains flash photography.
Bloody people. I can't bear that. He's so horrendous.
Was it an ill-tempered outburst from a man who should know better? Or the understandable gripe from someone who for years has been hounded by the media?
No sympathy with him. I mean, he set aside 10 minutes of his holiday to talk to journalists so he can be left alone afterwards. So the least he can do is show good grace and manners during those 10 minutes.
I think he was just a little bit rude about the broadcaster because they're only doing their job.
He seems to have spoken in not in a very etiquette way.
He might finally be getting married to the woman he's loved for years, but one psychiatrist who's written a book about royal mistresses thinks the marriage itself could be the cause of his outburst.
He's had one marriage that didn't work and another one that has been put off for so long that most people have stopped believing in it.
William might already be towering over his father in physical stature, but does he also tower over his father in his suitability to be king? Look at the way he handled the press yesterday.
Very happy, very pleased. Be a good day.
We did our own unscientific straw poll to find out who you want to be our next king.
I would like to see Prince William as the next king.
Prince William. Prince William.
Prince William. Prince William next king.
I would like to see Prince Charles.
Prince Charles.
Prince William.
Prince William.
William, Prince William.
But most royal commentators think we will have King Charles before King William. But if Prince Charles continues his long audition to get on the TV series Grumpy Old Men, it won't stop many wanting his son instead of him. Martin Popplewell, Sky News.
Quick look at the sports headlines for you now. Here's Rob.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening. Northampton have been knocked out of the quarter-finals of the Heineken Cup. They were well beaten by last year's runners-up Toulouse in the south of France by 37 points to 9. The French side running in 4 tries in what was a comfortable victory for them. Manchester United manager Sir Alex Ferguson has hit out at the media for hounding Wayne Rooney and says the club will do everything it can to protect him. Good news on the injury front though for Ferguson. Rio Ferdinand has been passed fit to face Blackburn. Premiership leaders Chelsea have fresh injury problems though. They've confirmed that defender Paulo Ferreira has been ruled out for up to 6 weeks with a broken bone in his foot. The Portugal defender suffered the injury against Slovakia on Wednesday. The West Indies piled on the runs on day 2 of the first test against South Africa in Georgetown. Shivnarine Chanderpaul and Wavell Hines both made double centuries. They declared at 543 for 5. Paul Broadhurst holds a share of the lead after the second round of the Portugal Open. Broadhurst picked up 5 birdies and didn't drop a shot on the way to a round of 66, level with Portugal's José Felipe Lima. That's all the sports for now, but we'll have sport in full in Sportsline, which follows Sky News at 10.
Thanks very much, Rob. Let's just bring you right up to date with what is happening here. No further news for the last 2 or 3 hours from the Vatican. The Pope's health said to be in a state of deterioration, but the Vatican insists he's still alive. Let's just get a flavour of the services and the vigils that are going on around the world tonight for him. And talked to Sky's Liam Cray in Armagh in Ireland, the ecclesiastical centre of Irish life, of course. Liam, a flavour of the thoughts tonight in a country that has taken this Pope very much to its heart.
Well, Jeremy, the mood here in Armagh is very quiet tonight. There has been a steady flow of people coming to St Patrick's Cathedral behind me here in Armagh City. They've been coming for a quiet prayer, for contemplation, and to think about a Pope who they say thought constantly of Ireland, thought of our peace process, and thought very much of the people here. The doors have remained open all day. There have been 2 services here, one taken by the Archbishop of Armagh, and the other one taken by one of the other priests. But certainly both those were filled to capacity, over 1,000 people in each of them, and a steady flow, as I say, throughout the rest of the day. Thousands and thousands of people from all arts and parts throughout Ireland have come here to visit and to get involved in prayer for the Pope, a Pope that they loved very much.
Liam, many thanks. Liam Cray in Armagh. With me in Rome, just down the road from the Vatican City, Colin Brazier, our correspondent here. Colin, a strange evening and almost a sense of limbo now, where thousands of people are in the streets waiting in a state of anxiety and apprehension, I suppose.
All the information seemed to be reaching a conclusion about 3 or 4 hours ago, all the pointers indicating that we were going to have some definitive announcement from the Vatican. It's not turned out that way at all. And what we have now are tens of thousands of people. I've just taken a walk up there. The numbers are holding steady. I was here for the beatification of Mother Teresa 6-7 months or so ago. Then the crowd's 50,000 or so. It's about that level, I would guesstimate, very rough guesstimate, but certainly tens of thousands still. It's a fairly bracing evening, and you wonder how long Vatican officials can look down on St. Peter's Square, look at the enormous congregation there, and determine that they will leave them pretty much in the dark, which is where we stand at the moment. We know the prognosis is extremely gloomy. People have been told to prepare for the worst, but so far as we know, at least, he's still alive.
Do you sense those people are in shock, or is it now they've been prepared in a way so long by his state of health that they are now, it's just sadness, really?
You get the feeling they come to pay their respects. I mean, doubtless some of them will have seen Italian media reports that the Pope had died, and they'd come down thinking he was gone, and this was their way of paying their respects. But people are upset. People are reflective. It's quite eerie. People are looking up at those 2 lights in the Pope's apartments and simply gazing at those 2 windows, looking for signs of activity, not particularly receiving any. It's an eerie atmosphere down there, very quiet, and certainly one where we're expecting some kind of resolution soon.
Colin, jolly good, thank you very much indeed. And as one cardinal here in Rome said tonight, the Pope is already seeing and touching the Lord.
10 a.m. local time. The weather on the ground is mostly fine, with some scattered cloud and a temperature of 27 degrees Celsius. So a beautiful day in store for all of us.
Thompson.co.uk for flights. City breaks.
Hello. Overnight again, I think it'll be a bit misty, murky. We've still got some rain around through parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. It's going to push its way a little further north. It's not going to amount to much. And in the south in particular, I think we'll see mist and fog forming once again. So this is the way that Saturday morning looks like. And I think we will again see this rain, but it is pushing its way northwards all the time. And I think it'll be tending to die out as well. Further south, most of the mist, fog and low cloud will lift to give a glorious day, warm and sunny. It just may be that some of this mist and fog sticks around the southern and eastern coast, but most places, well, we could well be seeing temperatures up to 16, 17 Celsius, that's 63 degrees Fahrenheit. And gradually those brighter conditions spreading further north as the rain pushes away. Now, through the rest of Europe for Saturday, well, eastern parts faring fairly well. Got a lot of clear skies, good sunny spells and a good deal of sunshine. Still some showery rain down in the far southeast, but in the main that's going to be missing both Italy and Greece. Whereas looking further to the west, it is going to be really quite wet and windy, and that's really pushing those temperatures down. We've been seeing quite typically 24, 25 in southern parts over the last couple of days. Another good day for most people in the southeast, but rain working its way eastwards in northern and western parts.